Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? Each is given a bag of tools, a shapeless mass, a book of rules, and each must make, ere life has flown, a stumbling block or a stepping stone. R. Lee Sharp. Do you read notices very often? Poor Jimmy McTavish, living in a little Scottish village in the Highland, was getting near the end of his life, and he called his wife to the bed, and he said, "I'd like one thing before I go." And she says, "What was that, Jimmy?" He says, "I'd like my obituary to be placed in the London Times." She says, "The London Times? We live 600 miles north of London. We've never been to London." "Oh, just once," he says, "I want my name to be published in a big city newspaper and put it in the classified section where the notices are. That's where everybody looks." Well, Jimmy passed away, and dutifully his wife phoned the London Times, got the circulation department, asked for the notices page, and he says, "My husband's died in Scotland, and his last wish was to have his name printed in the classified section. Do you do that?" He says, "Well, it's unusual, madam, but we will certainly do it if we can. I should tell you it's £10 a word." She says, "Right, Jimmy McTavish died." He says, "But madam, you have to have a minimum of 6 words. She says, "Right, Jimmy McTavish died, bagpipes for sale." A religion at its simplest is a glorified notice board. Have you noticed that? Layers vying for our attention. Read this, consider that, tear off this phone number, call us up. Some are old, some are torn, some have been defaced because somebody didn't like them, and some are pristine because they were either so inane or so boring that no one ever read them. Some are large, some are small. New vehicle wanted. That's the reform voice of the church speaking. Puppies for sale. That's the kind and tender pastoral heart of the church speaking. Looking for my mother. That's the hungry person found in every church who's looking for the very heart of life. Post no bills. That's the prohibitor in the churches. Dance party, free drinks. That's for those looking for ecstasy and passion in the heart of the holy. Your fortune told, those wondering about the ultimate meaning of life. Pain relief, the end of agony. At its simplest, religion is a glorified notice board, and if that's so, after a while it becomes wallpaper. And you don't look at notice boards anymore, and if you do, you say, "I wonder what the real story is, who's the person behind the notice," and so on. I was walking by Flinders Street Station the other day, and a red-headed man with a backpack handed me a Jesus Christ business card. And I thought to myself, I know who Jesus Christ is, I'm just not sure who you are at the moment. So I found myself suspicious and drawing away from him. Well, if religion's like a notice board, then the city is like a homemade quilt. Have you seen that? 1,000 patches and 1,000 themes strung together, colors that either blend or clash, qualities that vary, some terrifying, some awesome, some inane, some risque, some evocative. Some are sweet and homespun. They're always needing maintenance and always being defaced by somebody, and they're always loose at the edges with people coming and going. A city is like a homemade quilt. Well, do you feel that religion and the cities get along very well? Does each adjust to the other? I think religion in the city adjusts more to the city than the city does to us. Because, as we've said earlier in the conversation, many of us in this stripe of congregation feel we are just hanging on by a thread. In the words of Matthew Arnold, you can hear the tide rolling out, and we're just left with the sand and grit where the water used to be. And we're looked on by folk outside. It's just a little bit odd. Churches are places you walk by, and you don't hang around at the door in case they haul you in and do something to you while you're in there. And so our response as churches is often private. Well, we know what we're doing, and we're staying out of your way, so you just stay out of our way. Or sweet-faced in terms of the public. Butter wouldn't melt in our mouth in the big city. And culturally cooperative. How can we make your life a little better? Run your concerts here. Have a dance party here. You can use one of our spare rooms. The churches these days are really a condiment as opposed to a main dish. Have you found that so? I was thinking, and here I will offend everybody, the Anglo-Catholics are sort of like gravy. You pour it on something and it all tastes like home at the end. And the liberals like us are a little dash of paprika that's thrown in secretly, and halfway through the meal somebody says, "Oh, I just got a bite of that. I wonder what that's about." And the evangelicals, well, they're sort of like Brussels sprouts. Those who love them really love them. But the rest of us just like a taste of them maybe at Christmas, maybe just one. Cities are the big players on the scene, and don't get me wrong, there is much to praise about cities. They're the civic power center. Creative people gather and live there. Cities are beautiful. I had my breath taken away again walking across South Bank in a morning sunlight and seeing the outline of Melbourne's skyline. It's beautiful. And cities are protectors of history and civility, and they're mysterious, and they have a lure, and there's the old song, "If I can make it here, I can make it anywhere." So the city often draws the best and the deepest to its heart. But religions are watchful of cities too. We tell our children cities can be seductive and dangerous, stealers of your innocence. They can be voracious, and they can be unrepentant about those whom they step on or those whom they find living in their underbelly. And it's really foolish when you think about it. Pride in a city is always held in the face of inevitability. We're all going to decline, proud or humble. And ego in the city is foolish in the face of ultimate insignificance. 100 years from now, we might be a note in somebody's family album, and 200 years from now, we will be helping corn crops grow in somebody's field. And brutality in the city is such a foolish response in the face of the wonder of all the magnificent, gentle people who live in its midst. Get past the brusque front, and you find people who will help you and laugh with you and walk with you and show you what to need to know. Indeed, one of the writers in the book of Genesis seemed very down on the city. Did you hear it in the reading of the Tower of Babel? He was probably David the king's court historian, and he was a spin master because he was selling a flawed king, David, as God's Messiah. That's pretty good if you can pull it off. In the city, he thought, by experience, the despot rules and the common folk suffer. And in his story, he says the goal of the city seems to be to make a name and hold it. That is, to have power and keep it. Bricks make them hard and high to build insulation against all the things that can take your power away from you, and then build it to heaven. We'll show him who's God and who isn't. Hubris at the heart of the city. The issue for him is that cities employ only few words to hold the fabric together, and those few words, when we speak them to each other, are not enough. The city's words are often obey, fit in, shut up. If you're going to live here, obey, fit in, shut up. Indeed, cities can express themselves in one or two words. And I was thinking about the cities I've happened to visit. I'm not a great world traveler. Australia's as far as I ever get. I was telling Dr. McNabb I'm often not invited to my own children's birthday parties, so this is a very good visit for me. But I was thinking of cities that I've seen and the words that come to me. Edinburgh, pipes, drums, decorum. Does that fill it up for you? Glasgow, drink up, Jimmy, it's closing time. London, classy. Paris, romantic. Berlin, able. Oslo, tenacious. Washington, D.C., mighty. New York City, flashy. Los Angeles, glamorous. Toronto, sorry. Canadians always say, "I'm sorry." Have you noticed that? Canadians, well, the standard line is, why did the Canadian cross the road? To get to the middle. There was a woman who actually fell down in a stairwell in front of a major department store, and the man behind her bumped into her. And as he helped her up, she turned to him and said, "I'm sorry." Canadians say sorry a lot. You came to visit our city? Was it a little too cold for you? Sorry. Did you find the traffic a little thick? Sorry. Was the hotel room a little pricey for you? Sorry. Toronto, sorry. And Melbourne, wait for it. Absolutely charming. Now, I use just a few words in the city myself when I think about it. Pattern is one of my words. If I leave now, how long will it take me to get to my office? Timing. If I leave right after lunch, I can be home before rush hour starts. So my work at Metropolitan goes from 11:15 in the morning till 12:30, and I have lunch in between. It's a nice life. Safety is one of the words, and a sense of isolation in the city. I'm in my car driving along a strange street. Does anyone even know I'm alive? Performance is important in the city. You have to do well or you fall off the horse and the whole herd rolls over you. And survival is a city word as well. How can I keep doing this? And yet on a holiday weekend, this is one of them in Toronto, the city empties on a Friday night. People can't wait to get out of it. The lines to go to the cottage or to the summer place are twice as long, and the time twice as long. People are desperate to get out of the city's hold. In the city, religion uses few words as well. Tribal is one of them. We're just ourselves, and we like ourselves, and we do well together, our tribe. Suspicion is one of our words. I wonder what city council's going to do to us now. A measure of tolerance is one of our words. Yes, you're all right. You can come in and just don't touch anything. Pride of accomplishment. You should have seen who we were 50 years ago. Look at all this. It's magnificent. You should see the work we've been doing this week behind the scenes. Ah, yes, we're actually making a difference in this city, we say. Resentment at neglect. Is that one of them? How do people pass us by without realizing who we are and how important our work is? Drain. Do people not realize that we are dealing with the heart of the universe? Ah, one of our phrases. Wrestling with the meaning of a good life. That's one of our phrases as well. Now, the writer of Genesis says the city was built with one purpose. Few words, one purpose. Safety in the face of ultimate human scattering. Find the plug of change and chance and pull it. That's why the city of Babel was built. But St. Paul, writing in Romans, maintains that the city words are too few, and the goal of the city and its words is unrealistic. We're all in over our heads in a thing we can't fully understand, he writes. That's the basis of our human unity. We flow in a trustworthy source, and that's the source of our faith, he writes. And the desire to go with the flow, to brave the flow, indicates that we are the children of God. We are showing our divine gene pool by willing to take the risk and flow with the river of life. Those are our strengths, says Paul. They are written off as weaknesses in the urban setting. So we are scattered for our true life's sake. We live in a world of unknown people and limited communications. Now, that's hard to say in a world where communications are so great, but I need to tell you what a Neanderthal I am since arriving in Australia. When I got here, I realized I couldn't set the heat setting in the room at the hotel. It had symbols on it, and I thought the little symbol for sun indicated daytime. It indicates heat. So for 2 nights on a chilly, chilly autumn day, I was lying in my bed wondering what's wrong with the machine. Well, something was wrong with my communication. And when I came here, I was given a smartphone. Smartphone, dumb guy. All you have to do is push the little screen and it lights up. It will ring the world. You can call Queen Elizabeth on it if you want. Just push these 6 buttons. And I've carried around in my pocket, and the only thing I've enjoyed is the little buzzing sensation when someone phones me by accident. So this business about limited communication, unlimited communications is missing me, and I suspect it's missing lots of people as well. There's an isolation in each one of us, a little central piece that is not being addressed. To live well and deeply takes time. It takes intimacy and a willingness to listen and to be vulnerable. We sense things with our eyes if we take time, and we feel with our hearts. Words are often too ham-fisted to get there. My wife will say to me sometimes, "Yes, go ahead and do that." It takes me 20 minutes to figure out what she meant. Should I do it or not? That's just one little phrase, you see. Well, I've got 2 Sundays with you for which I'm very grateful, and I was thinking, what in the world will I say to you? And I came across a quotation from my friend Barbara Brown Taylor, a very fine American preacher and writer, and it's in her book, An Altar in the World. And if you're interested in a very good read, An Altar in the World, this is what she writes. Many years ago, a wise old priest invited me to come speak at his church. "What do you want me to talk about?" I asked him. "Come and tell us what is saving your life now," he said. It was as if he had swept his arm across the dusty table and brushed all of the formal china to the ground. I did not have to try to say correct things that were true for everyone. I did not have to use theological language that conformed to the historical teachings of the church. All I had to do was figure out what my life depends on. All I had to do was figure out how I stayed close to that reality, as close as I could, and then find some way to talk about it that helped my listeners figure out the same things for themselves. So I was thinking about things that are saving my life now. One of them is the warp and the woof of friendship. I don't have a large number of friends, but I have 2 or 3 absolutely solid friends, and my very best friend has been so for nearly 50 years. And we have agreed that one is going to bury the other, but neither of us wants to be the one to do it, so obviously we're heading for eternity. But we know each other's secrets, we have each other's backs, we can talk about anything, and the conversation picks up exactly where it left off, no matter how much time passes in between. And that friendship, and those like it, is saving my life now. The scent of coincidence is also saving my life. Now, some wise person has said, if you don't believe in coincidence, I wish you a very dull life. One of the heroes at Metropolitan Church is Dr. Peter Bryce, a former moderator of the United Church of Canada. I was 5 years old when he died. Every autumn when I go back to work, I beat myself up, saying, how in the world am I going to do this work in this great church? Who am I? Yada, yada, yada. Well, we were standing at a train station in Thurso, Scotland, Elspeth and I, waiting to come back to Toronto to start the autumn. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. There were 2 other people standing further down the station, and I was worrying about having to put on the harness for another year. The woman shouted up the station, "You might want to bring your bags down here, mister. The train only comes up this far." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And she said, "You're not from here, are you?" I said, "No, I'm from Canada, Toronto." She said, "I had a relative in Canada, Toronto. Dr. Peter Bryce, he was the minister of the Metropolitan Church." I said, "I'm the minister of the Met." "No," she says. She said, "I never met him, and I've lost contact with the whole family." And she and her daughter were just passing through. They didn't even live there. They were just walking through the station that morning. And that was Dr. Bryce saying to me, "Put on the harness, go back to work, and don't be such a fool." The scent of coincidence is saving my life now. The fact of my mortality is saving my life now. That might sound kind of strange, but once you realize that you're in a cycle of life as old as time and that your death belongs as much to you as your life does, it changes the way you look at things. We had the most remarkable dog. We got him used. He lived next door to us at the cottage. But when his owner moved away, he adopted us. He weighed 90 pounds. He was a retriever, half a flat coat, half a black lab, and he loved us. He couldn't wait for us to arrive. We took him from the country to the city. He lived with us for a few years and made us laugh every day. Suddenly his health began to change, and the veterinarian said, he's 9 years old, he probably has a tumor inside somewhere, I don't think we can save him, but we can make the last month or so of his life wonderful. So they put the dog on prednisone, and we were at the cottage at the time, so every day the dog was in and out of the lake and playing his old self, and then on the very last day, he could not bring himself out of the house, and we knew that we could not take him back to the city with us, and so very sadly, we lifted him into the van. It was a Sunday, of course, and we drove 40 miles to an emergency veterinarian, and the dog got out of the car, walked into the little room, and laid himself down on the rug and waited. And we held him in our arms, and the veterinarian made a small little port in his paw and put in the inoculation, and 1 second he was there, and the next second he was gone. And that was the most remarkable death. He simply did what he needed to do. He had always placed himself between us and the unknown future, and on the day of his death, he did the same thing. That dog helped me to die. The fact of my mortality is saving my life now. And underneath is the salt sea of belonging. Dr. James S. Stewart, the greatest Scottish preacher, said we simply cannot fall out of it. The whole thing belongs to us, and even if we don't hold on to it with both hands, we can't fall out of it. And tumble down though we may, underneath are the everlasting arms. And perhaps most importantly, and I found this as a surprise, in a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke, whose poetry I love, what's saving my life now is to fight the right good fight. Listen to what he says. When we win, it's with small things, and the triumph itself makes us small. What is extraordinary and eternal does not want to be bent by us. I mean the angel who appeared to the wrestlers in the Old Testament. When the wrestler's sinews grew long like metal strings, he felt them under his fingers like chords of deep music. Whoever was beaten by this angel, who often simply declined to fight, went away proud, strengthened, and great from the harsh hand that kneaded him as if to change his shape. Winning does not tempt that man. This is how he grows, by being defeated decisively by constantly greater beings. Being defeated decisively by constantly greater, climbing the hill a bit at a time and learning more and experiencing more and being a broader person. This is saving my life. Now, today in the church year is Pentecost, as many of you will know, and it sets before us in story form a tableau of spiritual empowerment, a harvest of meaning for all we have been through together on our walk with Jesus Christ. Did our hearts not burn within us as he walked with us on the way? There were no words, simply a mighty wind, the passion to know in the human heart, and the clarity of a deep language too deep for words, by which people went to their own homes assured of the goodness and nearness of God. The seed of faith produced the bread of life on a day called Pentecost. I went to the hills of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago to a retreat put on by an American named Parker Palmer, a Quaker. He designed these retreats for teachers that had burnt themselves out, but he's expanded it to other groups. It was the longest, most remarkable weekend I could ever remember. It went on for days and days and days. We were invited simply to read something and perhaps chat with someone, perhaps not, perhaps sit in the sun and I kept looking at my watch and I thought my watch was broken. It was the longest weekend. And at the end, he said, go out and find a labyrinth in the woods and walk the labyrinth. So there was one with stones gathered round the middle and on a slant running down a hill. And of course, at a labyrinth, you stand at the edge and you ask it a question. And then you simply walk the labyrinth and see what happens. And I think my question was something like, am I alone in this quest? Is there any way through the maze of life? And then you shut your eyes and slowly start walking and follow the path all the way around. And when I got to the center, there was a stump there. And on the stump, someone had put a stick of gum and a penny and a used flower. And when I opened my eyes the second time, there was a little blackbird sitting there right in front of me. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and I thought, And then he jumped down into the short grass and he began eating and picking at things. And then he leapt into the long grass and began picking at things. And then he flew off into the depths of the forest and I lost sight of him. And I thought, oh yes, it's easy to find food in the short grass where everything's familiar. The long grass is a little tougher. But in the maze of the world, in the greenery, hidden in the branches, you're lost in there. And then suddenly, I saw just a flick of color, and another little bird out of somewhere flew through all that greenery and found him and sat beside him on a branch. And I thought to myself, there is companionship on the quest. I will find my way through the maze of life. Or as Australians might say, she be right, mate. Something is very gently, invisibly, silently pulling at me, writes Denise Levertov, a thread or net of threads finer than cobweb and as elastic. I haven't tried the strength of it. No barbed hooks pierced and tore me. Was it not long ago this thread began to draw me, or way back was I born with its knot around my neck, a bridle? Not fear, but stirring of wonder makes me catch my breath when I feel the tug of it, when I thought it had loosened itself and gone. That which is saving your life knows your name, and one whisper of its nature to your heart is worth 1,000 words.